Alright, so now that we've got the back part of the model all sorted, we just need to go and make some adjustments that I've noticed. So you notice at the front here, because of the subdivision surface, we're not quite matching that outer curvature. I'm kind of okay with that because I know with our low poly it does match that up. So I know with the baking process that will be okay. But what's not matching up at the moment is where this bottom peak is reaching. So I'm just going to press O to turn on proportional editing. Going to set it to spherical. And I'm just going to go G, Z, and just drag this down on the Z axis a bit. And I'm just going to decrease the fall off just a bit because I still want to keep these roughly in line with everything. And so that looks pretty good. I might actually just adjust these. So just grab these two. I know I said I wasn't going to worry about the more bulbous nature of it, but I'm just going to pull those out just a fraction. And the reason I don't want to mess around with that too much is I just don't want to create a peak down the middle here or any visible mesh down the front. So that's why I'm just sort of very tentatively modifying that area. Something else I noticed, and I don't know if I taught this into the tutorial or exactly how I've managed this, and I don't remember when I caused this error, but notice this line of vertices here. It does not match up with our reference image anymore. It does from the side, you know, that looks fine. Apart from that sort of divots in a bit, but that's not a big deal. But this is quite significantly missing where it needs to be. And given the fact that we have so much topology, that's a real pain. And it's not fun. But if I have transferred this error over in what I've taught, I'm going to show you a way that's fairly reliable to fix this, and that won't cause a whole lot of damage to the rest of the model. So what we're going to do is we're going to hide just some mesh around here that we definitely don't want to be affected. And I'm just going to go ahead, hide this loop, and now we'll select this and hide that. So this gives us access, shift that, this gives us access to just modifying this area, right? So we're not in danger of modifying any other parts of our mesh, and we want to be very delicate with what we're doing here. So to start out with, I'm going to select just this outside area here. So just the vertices that make up the bevel on the innermost loop and the support loop. And so with our proportional editing still set to spherical, we go G and X. I'm going to move this out. I'm not going to worry about the size of the radius at the moment. I'm just going to move it out so that the innermost edges line up with the reference again. So that's where I want it. Now that I've got it where I want it, I can decrease the size of the proportional editing. And I'm pretty much just going to do it. I'm looking over at the creases on the right hand side, and so you can see at this interval it moves those creases, so we don't want to do that because that's a hard edge and that will break the way it looks. So I'm just going to decrease it by one more, and you'll notice if I decrease it again, between this region it's not modifying the position of those creased ones. You could argue it's modifying it very, very slightly, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's okay. So I'm going to move it that far with that size of the radius. And just to show you what this has done, so we've moved it out, but we've done it in such a way that's pretty well non-destructive to the rest of the helmet. And I'm just going to use a very harsh matte cap here. So I can see a bit of distortion up here that might have been caused from that. And I can see a lot of distortion down here that we want to get rid of. But I'll show you how to fix both of those in a way that should be fairly reliable. So, in doing that, what we're going to do is what might seem like undoing a whole lot of work. I'm just going to select these 4 vertices. I'm going to delete all of those vertices. And just press O to disable your proportional editing, otherwise it's going to make this next part a nightmare. And so I'm just going to realign these verts with where they should be. And just sort of bring that one out as well. Cool. So I can't remember when in the tutorial I did this, but I'm thinking that I must have selected these points, and don't do this, I'm just trying to replicate the mistake I think I made, and did a G-stretch operation on it, and that's gone ahead and flattened this out and pushed it all into the wrong area. So I'm not going to do a G-stretch, but I am going to do a relax operation just to smooth that out just a little bit more, still keep the shape. Now we just need to go ahead and rebuild the area that we've deleted in here. So we'll start with this triangle, we'll go up and up another face, and one more. I should also mention the fact, if you didn't make this mistake earlier on like myself, then you don't need to rebuild all this, I should probably mention. I'm just doing this because I've made a mistake and I'm showing you how I'm going to fix that. And so that we can go ahead, we can add a loop in here so that we can close that edge loop out. And then we've got that pole again, and that one there, and just for the look of it, we can sort of bring that out. Now, this still is not perfect by any means, I promise you. It's pretty good. Like, the distortion in that area is pretty alright. It's, turn the subdivision surface on and make it easier to see. So it's pretty good, it's nice and smooth, but as I said, there's still some errors up here. You can sort of see how this reflection here is sort of catching a bit. But I'm going to show you a way to fix this. So this is not a method that I would typically employ, but I tested it before and I know it's going to work. So I'm going to select the inside of all the faces of our support loops. So you'll notice I have not selected the loop that's running around here. And then I will do the same for the bottom. So I've got all the way around here. I'm going to hide that, I'll select the part that I want and unhide everything. And then I'm going to search for smooth vertices, or Control V is apparently the shortcut. Just going to do that. And this will fix most of the errors that we've caused, and sort of just help smooth out the rest of the shape of the helmet as well. But this does cause a different error, so I'm just going to undo that very quickly. And I'll put this matte cap back on and our subdivision surface. So we do have some pinching here, right? And that will get fixed in due time. But if we smooth everything, the problem becomes a whole lot worse. But there's an easy way to mitigate that, and it's just because of the shape of the loop. And because we smooth these vertices, this isn't really matching the profile like it once was. It's not as sharp anymore, right? But easy fix. We're just going to go ahead and we'll select all of these edges on the outside, and I'll do it down to here. I don't want to adjust that one because it's just going to get a bit weird. Go GGEF, and it's pretty well put it back where I want. So I'm just going to hit enter, so that's cool, and you'll see it's brought the form and shape back into the side here as well. And then if we put our subdivision surface back on, you'll notice we've still got the pinching there, but it's nowhere near as bad as what it was. And we've now corrected the shape here without completely destroying all of our curvature. And you'll notice as we pan along here with a very, very harsh matte cap, it's all looking pretty nice. Maybe not perfect by any means, but it's still very nice and smooth. So just a quick fix for some errors that I had caused without realizing. Oops, something just, what happened there? So sorry, with the with the edge slide, sorry, I'm going to not select that second last one either. GGEF. Just might bring it out a bit. There we go, that's better. Okay, so don't select that one, select up to there, and then just make sure it doesn't sort of snap to anything else that it shouldn't. And then we might actually have to go ahead and just do some spacing through here, just to be very meticulous about it. Just go through down to there. Oops. Once again, probably don't need to do this, but space and relax that. Cool. All right. So there you go. Just quick fix to a problem that I'd identified. So with those errors out of the way, let's come and address the little bevel at the front of the helmet here. So what we're going to do is, let's just grab this and let's do an edge slide it back a bit, then press C to extend it along those normals. And like every other bevel we've done, we're just going to extend this down beyond where we need to, so that once we do the bevel, it conforms back into the shape that we want. Let's go in here, select our top vertex group, and then we'll just go ahead and we'll select the front side of the helmet as well and assign that back in. With all that selected, let's duplicate it, P to remove by selection, and let's call this top shrink new. And we'll set the viewport display to bounds, and we can move that into our shrink wraps so we don't need to worry about it. And so with that done, let's set up a shrink wrap modifier, target our top shrink new, and use our top vertex group. So we can't actually make this bevel yet because it is sitting along the center of our mirror modifier, so we're going to need to go ahead and apply our mirror. Then we'll just select the vertice, Control Shift and B, drag this out, and we'll do 4 segments, roughly match that profile. Deselect the outside vertices and delete those vertices there. Now, very quickly, you'll notice that this center vert is no longer center. So we're going to apply the shrink wrap. We'll just go GX and we'll snap that vertice back into the middle. And we're going to delete half of our mesh. Oops, don't delete vertices, delete faces. I seem to have missed these ones here, so we'll delete those ones as verts. Bring back our mirror modifier, put that at the top of the stack, enable clipping, and we can bring back our shrink wrap modifier now that we've fixed up the vertices that were in the middle. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So before we continue, just go ahead and hide the faces up there because we're going to add in a loop cut to add in some more topology here, and then we're going to add in another loop just next to that to fill in the rest of the faces. So this part's a bit annoying because we can't use a space operation to evenly space everything out from, like, say, here to here, which would be nice. So we're actually going to get more bunched topology in the front. It's kind of unavoidable at this stage, unfortunately, but it's sort of just the price we need to pay to get this nice bevel at the front. So what I'm going to do is between these points, just going to select these, and we're just going to relax. Just going to hit relax once, okay? And if we use the vertex view, we can see what that's done. And annoyingly, it sort of creates this peak in the middle. I don't know why. There's not been a single version of this that I've run where that hasn't occurred. So just apply the shrink wrap and then just drag everything back into the middle along the x-axis so it clips. Apply your mirror modifier again, and then we're just going to do relatively the same thing. So we'll just select these loops, select the middle, Shift and H to isolate this, select all of the vertical loops apart from that bottom one when we invert the selection, and just go ahead and relax all of those, and you can probably space it. It'll just help divvy them out just a little bit more. And then we can just go ahead and, for the final time, we won't need to do this again, we can just go ahead and delete half of our mesh, bring back in our mirror modifier, put it at the top of the stack, enable clipping, and you'll notice now, for the most part, the front of the helmet is relatively nice and smooth. It's not perfect, and it's going to be pretty hard pressed to get it perfect. But we can probably just help a little bit with this divot that I can kind of see. We can probably just pull this in just a smidge. And we might be able to... I know what we'll do. Let's just select between here and here. And let's just relax those vertices. And that's made any of the divots up the front less noticeable. And I can still just kind of see roughly just a little bit of a divot in the front. So what we're going to do is just one final time, we'll do a relax operation. We'll just extend it to be a little bit longer this time. Oops. So we'll just try to make these quads a little bit more even. And we'll just relax those ones twice. That's better. Alright, I'm happy with that. So yeah, there we go. Now we're not relying on our subdivision surface to do the heavy lifting of that bevel at the front, and we're starting to get more of the shape for everything. And don't worry, we will address what's going on here and clean all that up, because if you look at the reference, we've actually got to do a fairly substantial overhaul to that area anyway, and we can probably get right into that now. So what we can do here is rather simply, let's go ahead and let's remove these faces by selection as opposed to delete them. Let's just hide those. And let me just see, because we've still got those two vertices there. And they're not connected to the top. No, that's okay. So let's select these interior faces here. Let's go Inset and B so that we inset to the bounds. And we'll pull that in until it matches roughly the inside of our detail there. And I'm just going to go ahead and do an edge slide on these vertices just to pull them up a little bit more. Just align them a little bit better. With that, it's looking good. Space and relax those just to clean it up a little bit. And we can probably do the same with these ones here. Just space and relax those. And it doesn't matter that we've got a topology mismatch here, because it's going to, well, I'll show you what's going to happen. So let's grab these faces here. Let's use the normal. And when we extrude, it's going to change, isn't it? No, it's not. It's going to stay the same. Awesome. So from the front view, let's extrude this back, push it along the Z. And let's do it to about there. So I'm just looking at the middle at the moment, so more on the left-hand side of the screen. So that's aligned nicely with that. And I think the way I'm going to fix up the rest of this is to go ahead, select all these, change our orientation back to global, set our 3D cursor as the pivot point, search for shear, and can I do this along the Z axes, the X axes, Y axes? Alright, along the Y axes, and just shift that up so it's more nicely in line. Oh, actually, is that? Yeah, that's fine, that works. Just go shade smooth. And then the next thing we want to do is just go ahead, delete these faces. We can sort that out in a second. Let's extrude. Let's extrude all of these up, except for that very last one there. Just pull these directly up on the Z-axis, just to make that lip. And let's just fill in a triangle there. Add some crease to it. Oh, actually, no, hang on. Because we're not really worried about what the internal topology looks like here, let's subdivide it instead. Connect that as a face, and then just edge slide this down until we get that. And that looks good. Cool. And then we can just go ahead, we can select all of those verts, or edges, sorry. If we just do G and Y, actually, you're not really going to be able to see it from that point of view. Let's just approximate where this should really end up. It doesn't need to go too far back. And then we'll just do GG, slide it along C to continue that. And we'll just push it further back into the helmet. It's not too important how far back it goes. But we'll just push it back that far, and then we'll do something very similar for the rest of the topology here. So let's just select this upper edge. And let's just extend this back as well, just so it roughly matches everything else. We can delete that edge, sorry, not that face, because that doesn't make any sense. And let's just hide some topology to make this a little bit easier to see. And now, so we've got our topology mismatch back here, but as I said, it's not going to be a problem, because what we're going to do is we're going to add in a loop to the middle of both of these. We're going to add 2 subdivisions to the back. Select the top, space, relax. Then we can connect those up. And we can unhide the faces that we hid before. We can hide those faces. And we've got a little bit of a problem here, but nothing that we can't fix, because we've got 3 faces that we're trying to connect to 2. But what I'm going to suggest is we just fill that in as a face, and we can fill that in as a face, and we can crease up these edges at the back, same as that one there. And I know that's all gotten a little bit messy, but let's just have a look. So yeah, none of that is great. I mean, look, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and add a loop cut along the top here, but I'm going to suggest that we don't need to do that, just because of how far back in that is to the helmet. And there's going to be another detail that we add in here anyway that will very well hide a lot of what we have. So there's like a little grid vent system at the back here. So in edit mode, let's use this middle vertex here as our origin point. And actually, instead of trying to do it with a new mesh, let's instead actually, setting that origin point was kind of pointless, because what we'll do instead, I think, is let's just duplicate that row of faces, separate it by selection, just isolate it, make another loop at the front here, we just delete the vertices there, we can dissolve that edge, and then we want to turn these into individualized insets. So let's go inset to the boundary for this one. Let's just bring that in so far. And then I think for the rest of them, we could probably just go ahead and bevel all of these edges. We only need to do one segment. Roughly match that up to be the same size. So I'm just eyeballing that. And come to think of it, I think this one's probably far larger than the other ones that we just did. So I might just do an edge slide, pull that in a bit. And you'll notice I just toggled the vertex, or the on cage. I had no idea what that was called, just so I could see the vertices of everything else. So I might just slide that in just a little bit more, just to make these roughly even. And even there, I'm not sure if that's how close that is. I'm just going to turn everything off. I think they're a little bit skinnier on the outside, so let's just make a little bit more. Alright, I think we can say that's good. We'll select all of those, invert the selection, delete all the other faces that we don't need. And with these, let's just go ahead and let's use the normal. And let's try it with the individual origins, extrude. Just bring these up until the faces disappear into the top there. That looks pretty good, I think. And so now we've got those modelled in. They do kind of look a little bit square though. Turn that off, that's just making things more confusing now. Let's go ahead, delete all these back faces because we don't need those. And let's just connect, this is probably unnecessary, but let's just go ahead, connect all of these with a face. Don't worry, I know this is completely wrong. And what's going to be the best way to do that? Doing an inset. Oh, yeah, that'll work fine. So let's select all the faces, do an inset. Just make sure you've pressed B so that we're doing it to the boundary. Inset this a bit, just an arbitrary amount. And then we'll select all of these inside edges along here and just Control X to dissolve them. That should have. Okay, never mind. We're going to have to do them with edge slides instead because Blender's just not playing nice with me. But let's select all the inside on the right, slide those out in, and then all of the ones on the inside. Slide those there. By distance, I'm not worried about messing anything up there. And then we can just go ahead and do that. Might even just bring all these forward. I just kind of feel like it all sits a bit like it's a very, very minute detail, but just can't help but feel that it doesn't look as nice as I'd like it to. And also, like, if there's too much depth, then you're not really going to appreciate what's going on for what it's worth. And I'm just going to pull this out further, and that can just fill the greater extremity of that. And we'll just do an edge slide down, just so it's not clipping through the rest of our mesh. Maybe do an edge slide back a bit as well. Pull it out just so that it's filling out the rest of that. And since we've done that, actually, No, I'm not going to delete that just in case there's any light leak or anything like that. I'm just going to leave it where it is. That's bizarre. Slide that back in. Nice, and we can just go ahead and Control J that with the rest of the mesh and do the same for these faces that we separated at the start. And I just realized a lot of what we did was kind of unnecessary with the loops because, oh no it wasn't, sorry, my bad. How many do we have down the front here? We've got 5 and then we've got 5. Okay, no, it's all good. We'll just go ahead and merge these along. Oops, merge it last. Merge it last. So that's a bit of a pain point. I dare say what we can do to make this easier is let's just cut that over to there, that over to there, that to there. And then we can just dissolve that. This should be connected again. Cool. And just on the inside we can go ahead, space these, relax. And let's select all the faces here and we'll just do by distance. Just to clean that up, and I can see something's going wrong here. So these aren't aligned properly, so let's merge at last. And to just do a little bit more cleanup, let's just go and relax. Actually, we can probably do space and relax there, it's not too problematic. And then I might just hit relax a few times here, just to sort of even out the grade between those areas. Shift D 0.55 on that. Let's have a look. Awesome. And that's actually really nicely cleaned up our pinching as well, just by having a little bit more geometry in there. And I can just sort of see, notice how the vertices, or the edges, I guess also the vertices are disappearing a bit there. Just pull it out a bit, just so it's back on a surface level. And that's looking pretty damn nice. And I don't actually think this needs to be creased here, so we might be able to just go and smooth this out. I think it's more of a smooth transition to the top of the helmet there. So let's just select between these points. And let's just relax all that. It might introduce a bit of pinching over there, I'm thinking. Definitely will. I can see the way that that's sort of tapering up a bit. It's not too bad. But I'm still going to fix it because I don't like it. So let's do an edge slide up, C, and just try to bring that more into the shape of the curvature of the helmet. There we go, that's much nicer. It actually fits with the style of the helmet, and that lines up with our reference pretty well. That looks really good. And just looking at it actually, just noticed we've still got the faces at the bottom of the detail here and at the top. So I'm just going to go ahead and just going to delete these because we don't need them. And that'll actually make texturing that just a little bit easier as well. But that just looks a little bit nicer now. We're not getting that beveled shape. It's sort of just more directly integrated with everything. And just on that note of making little fixes, Just going to go ahead, and I can just see here that we're getting a bit of pinching. And you can sort of just see the way that's warping on the topology there. So I'm just going to use the normal of this vertice, and I'm just going to push this back in a bit. Probably look a little bit drastic from that point of view, but that just smooths that out a bit. And sometimes that's all you need. You just, need to do a little bit of pushing and pulling of the verts. You might even just be able to do a little bit of an adjustment here as well. So just like do an edge slide and then C to sort of extend it down. Yeah, there we go. That's much smoother now. So fantastic. And this is the beauty of having the little Discord server to help out, because I've been given this little insight from Rees. So this is actually a little post-production edit that I've come in, so it's really handy to have that little community to talk to and bounce around some ideas about modelling, because even I make mistakes. So yeah, there we go. And now you guys get to all benefit from it as well, because we've just quelled a little bit of a pinching error.